Welcome everyone. Today's video is going to be addressing a few looming concerns in the cryptocurrency space regarding leading exchange Bitfinex, Tether, a company and token that is extremely close-knit with Bitfinex, and the historic meltdown that is Mt.Gox. A quick summary before jumping in. For many years now, there has been swirling interest, however small, in a new digital payment/commodity system known as Bitcoin. In reality, it is far more than just those things, and the technology that it is based on has much more far-reaching potential. But if we're being honest here, the vast majority of those interested in Bitcoin, at least right now, are new to the scene and are likely jumping in because they view Bitcoin and other altcoins as potentially profitable investments. I have been following Bitcoin and the space as a whole for about 5 years. I have witnessed Bitcoin's massive swings both up and down, as well as traded my fair share of it and many of its counterparts. I would like to tell you that I made millions of dollars and retired to a life of luxury, but sadly that is just not true. I have made myself a decent sum, however, and I hope to profit further in the future. But the goal of this video in particular is to highlight troubling indicators which could have a profoundly negative impact on the space as a whole, and thus the investments that so many are making. To be clear, I am not in any way attempting to discredit the value that Bitcoin has or could achieve in the future. At various points, I have been both bullish and bearish towards Bitcoin, but in a field as volatile and new as that of cryptocurrency, it is important to have as much information as possible to make determinations. All that being said, let's dive right into it. The first thing to examine is Bitfinex, and exchanges in general for that matter. With Bitcoin trading being a fairly new activity, and most certainly new to mainstream adoption, that's for certain, it's important for users to understand the risks of using pretty much any of the online exchanges. The best example of a security breach is the infamously historic Mt.Gox, short for Magic the Gathering online exchange. Mt.Gox was one of the largest exchanges operating during the 2013 Bitcoin boom. At the time, I did have a significant holding of Bitcoin and did some trading on Mt.Gox itself. Over time, we started to see warning signs, such as increased transaction times, some shoddy wording from Mt.Gox themselves stating that the issue was due to transaction malleability, and there were various other red flags. In February of 2014, Mt.Gox suspended all withdrawals. What followed was a drawn-out process of fraudulent excuses, culminating eventually in a leaked document and later a full explanation that Mt.Gox had lost some 800,000 bitcoins in a drawn-out hack that had slowly been carried out since 2011. From February 1st until the end of March, during the Mt.Gox problems, Bitcoin's price declined by over 36%. Not only that, but the credibility of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole took a very large hit, and the prices continued to decline over time, far after the event had ended. Thankfully, I myself had moved my Bitcoin holdings out after early warning signs, but others that I know were not so lucky. The events show that the more valuable a digital asset becomes, the more interest there will be in acquiring it through possibly less than legal means. The story also serves as a warning to those using the many online exchanges as a whole. I doubt that a great deal of buyers and traders even knew that the most popular exchange in the world, conducting over 70% of all transactions during 2013 and 2014, was just a repurposed fantasy trading card site. This is more extreme than in the case of Bitfinex, which we're about to talk about, but then again, so are the current prices of Bitcoin compared to back in 2013 and other altcoins. So is the buying frenzy regarding the digital asset, and so too is, or will be, the inevitable greed that can take hold of those in control of such platforms. The Mt.Gox hack was the largest so far, but the second largest belongs to Bitfinex itself. On August 2nd, 2016, Bitfinex announced that it had been compromised, losing over 120,000 bitcoins, valued at the time to be worth more than $72 million. Apply today's market valuation, and that is over $1.8 billion of Bitcoin. That by itself is not the main reason to distrust Bitfinex, but its relationship to Tether is much more troubling when compared to its track record of already not being secure. Now to really talk about Tether though. What exactly is it? Tether is a unique crypto token that is extremely close-knit with Bitfinex, though there is a lack of clarity regarding its exact relationship. A definite warning sign, by the way. Their integration goes as far as sharing bank accounts and potentially both being owned by the same parent company called Bitfinex Incorporated. What makes Tether so unique as a token is its relationship with the US dollar. One Tether is said to be backed by 100% of the time one US dollar, something that eliminates volatility and is not true of other crypto assets, coins, or tokens. It is also not a deflationary token, Many coins or tokens are structured in a way that there is a set amount which will not change. If anything, over time, the amount of most coins and tokens in the field right now will actually decrease as computers are lost or damaged or forgotten, etc., thus creating the deflationary aspect. Tether is the reverse and functions exactly as traditional fiat currency does. Those in control of Tether may create more at their own discretion, thus eliminating one of the most valuable traits that cryptocurrency has and replacing it with one of the most destructive traits of traditional fiat money, which is one of the things in particular many crypto investors are attempting to distance themselves from. We can see here that the market capitalization at the start of 2017 was around 14 million, and it has now increased to well over 800 million. This might be self-explanatory if we consider the rising price of Bitcoin, the mainstream adoption, and the pouring in of fresh investment money to the entire field over recent months. But the troubling thing is that Bitfinex and Tether have actually had their bank partners back away from them during this time. Wells Fargo, being the most notable, made a very specific maneuver to distance themselves from both Bitfinex and Tether, which actually resulted in a lawsuit by Bitfinex and Tether against them. Since that time, Bitfinex and Tether both have been less than forthcoming about their other banking partners, making it very obvious that they are not willing to disclose information which only serves to lend credibility to their critics. If Bitfinex and Tether are in fact losing access to investment channels as a whole, by which new money can flow, how is the number of tethers increasing at a nearly exponential rate? Another very troubling sign comes from the legal terms of service present on the Tether homepage itself. It states, every Tether is always backed one-to-one by traditional currency held in our reserves. So 1 USDT is always equivalent to 1 US dollar. But if we go on to read their legal terms of service, we find the following. Once you have tethers, you can trade them, keep them, or use them to pay persons that will accept your tethers. However, tethers are not money and are not monetary instruments. They are also not stored value or currency. There is no contractual right or other right or legal claim against us to redeem or exchange your tethers for money. We do not guarantee any right of redemption or exchange of tethers by us for money. There is no guarantee against losses when you buy, trade, sell, or redeem tethers. Essentially, though Tether is backed at a guaranteed quote-unquote one-to-one ratio by US dollars, they have been meticulously careful to make sure that they do not ever need to pay those dollars to anyone, and that they cannot be sued or held accountable for pretty much any reason. No matter how you look at it, that should be cause for concern. Additionally, on November 19th of 2017, Tether publicly acknowledged that a hacker had compromised their servers and made off with over $30 million worth of their token, highlighting that both Tether and its sister company, Bitfinex, are not necessarily secure. Tether also claims on its homepage, quote, our reserve holdings are published daily and subject to frequent professional audits. All tethers in circulation always match our reserves. Further underlining their stance that in some account somewhere, there is over 800 million in US dollars to back their circulating tokens. However, the quote-unquote professional audits that they claim to be frequent have not happened. After extensive research, there is no indication of any credible or otherwise audit being done. There was circulated a claimed previous audit by the company, which turned out in fact to just be an internal memo that was acknowledged by Tether themselves and was not in any way, shape, or form a traditional or credible audit, and they've acknowledged this publicly themselves. They also continued to withhold any information whatsoever about their banks, meaning if something does go wrong, users are not even able to identify which country and jurisdiction in which to file a lawsuit, which should be a huge red flag. The question is, has Tether been minting false tokens? And have those tokens been channeled through Bitfinex primarily to inflate the price of Bitcoin? With little to no transparency, regardless of how often they claim to be transparent or fully backed, how confident can we be while trading on the platform? And what kind of effect will it have on Bitcoin and the industry as a whole if what could very easily shape up to be more of an abstract but even more severe Mt.Gox situation takes place? Best case scenario, Tether is indeed backed by $1 US to every token. everything is highly secretive but ethical, and you simply have a company that makes every effort to not be held accountable, have zero obligation to give anyone their money back or exchange their holdings for fiat currency, and make pretty much every effort possible to disclose zero information about their financial structure as a whole. It could be, but it does not really make me a confident man. Worst case scenario, Tether is not backed by US dollars at all. They have zero liability and are creating tokens at their discretion to put buying pressure on Bitcoin through a few top exchanges, most prominently Bitfinex. They get found out, and they create a fraud scandal, a media frenzy, and investor hysteria that leads to a large Bitcoin price drop in the short term, as well as lost profits and initial investments for millions of people. My guess is it's somewhere in between. They are not operating above board. There is a regulatory and legal ignition point which sparks a fair bit of controversy, but does not destroy credibility or interest in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency as a whole. A great deal of exchanges may feel the ripple effect as established institutions crack down on the situation, and slowly, though, we forget and move on as we did with Mt.Gox. In the end, cryptocurrency is a highly speculative and volatile investment. It's got ups, it's got downs, and it's a developing field that can be a thrill to be involved with, but we must always operate carefully and with a healthy degree of skepticism. Blockchain technology can change the world, but blockchain technology won't change human nature. Thank you all for watching. I have only just begun the channel, but now that I am fully committed to this adventure, I will be covering crypto news, events, and writing/researching stories of my own whenever possible. That's all for now though, signing off.